Hey guys, Brunel here. Welcome back to another edition of Field Talk Fridays. I am in a field of enlist today. We were driving down the road and we did a hard stop to come and look at this field because we were noticing something that we've seen increasingly, especially this year, that I'm seeing all over the place. And that is suspect dicamba damage on non-extend beans. Dicamba is a herbicide that we're seeing more and more used because Roundup Ready or glyphosate, resistant kochia is much more prevalent, and also water hemp is becoming much more established in the region. So we're finding that there's more and more dicamba going down in corn and soybeans, etc., and probably a lot of first-time users still. I seem to be noticing more of an uptick this year in the amount of light damage. So when you start seeing leaf cupping and some of these trifoliates that appear deformed, oftentimes that is just a very low rate of dicamba damage that we're suspecting. And it's something that dicamba is very volatile. It can move off site, and we got to be careful how we use it, especially this time of year where the temperatures are very hot and there's a lot more risk of inversion. Now, do we have more inversions this year than other years? Possibly. There was some very calm days early June. Usually by the time you notice it, it means that the problem took hold 10 to 14 days earlier, so a couple of weeks earlier, and it can take 3 or 4 days to show up. But basically what you're looking at is some of the newest trifoliates that haven't been hardened off. They're more sensitive to it, so you'll see 2 or 3 trifoliates that are damaged. Now, in my experience, this does not translate into much of a yield penalty as long as the newer trifoliates coming out are looking better, and that's what we have in this case here. Is the newer trifoliates are opening up and they look normal. So I suspect that there won't be a whole lot of an issue here, but it is definitely noticeable from the road, and it's something that I think we need as an industry and that farmers really need to pay more attention to, is not only the spraying conditions at the time of application, but what is the forecast for the next 3 or 4 days after, because we can still get an inversion. It can still move off site. Now, in this particular field, it's a very light noticeable symptoms all across the field, which tends to be more off-site, like a volatilization, not necessarily a drift. When it's drift, you're going to see triangles, you're going to see patterns in the field. It's going to look worse at the areas closest to where the drift came from and then slowly taper off throughout the field. But here we're seeing it in the opposite end of the fields that have wheat and canola around it, surrounding it. There's no soybeans or corn or anything where we're spraying a higher dose of dicamba. There is some to the east of us on this particular field, but just to say, because it's similar symptoms and similar level of damage across the field, that tends to make me believe it's more of a volatilization and an off-site movement during an inversion than it would be an actual drift at the time of application. So, friendly reminder, the best way to use some of these products like dicamba, which is extremely volatile, is to spray it as a pre-emerge or at the most first pass, where it's earlier in the season, temperatures are cooler, and we have less potential for off-site movement. Where we've got the most potential for off-site movement is low wind, low humidity, high temperature is what I meant to say. So when you've got temperatures close to 30 degrees Celsius or in the high 20s, that's where our risk of off-site movement is the most. So here's a plant of soybeans. You can see that this trifoliate has a few symptoms on it, but this one primarily was the one that was touched the worst. But then the newer 2 are looking more normal. Another particular example, this is a bit of a bigger plant where you can see that this trifoliate was hit, this was hit, but the next ones look normal. So in my experience, this will not have a major impact. We've maybe kissed a few trifoliates here, but generally this is what I want to see. I want to see that the plant has recovered and these newer trifoliates are back to normal. Here's a third plant for that measure. When we look at it, maybe this trifoliate. So we're really looking at a couple of trifoliates before this next one is back to normal. But you can see the difference. You can see how it affects a veination or striation. You can see versus a normal one. It's very noticeable. Okay, here we're driving along the north side of this field, and you can see that there's something a little off about these soybeans. Jen made the comment, we're driving by some fields, like, what is that, peas? Do we have peas out here? No, we don't. These are soybeans that have been kissed by something. You've got the leaf cupping, we're seeing the undersides of the leaves. It just looks off, and you can see a lot of this driving up and down the road this year. Now, is it a case that we've had more inversions or more conditions for inversions? One could maybe make that argument because we put the soybeans in the ground. It was very cold for the first little while, and it took these soybeans a long time to get going, and it was very dry, so not much for weeds, which means that probably by the time we got around to doing even a first pass or a second pass in the soybeans, we're into June already, where we're at higher risk of inversions and higher risks of off-site movement.
For the record, I know that we don't have many peas here, but driving along the highway, you can just tell that there's something wrong with these beans, and that's what should trigger you to pull over and go and check out your farmer's fields, because there's something not right.
So here we are walking into that same soybean field. We're walking in, I'm going to walk in off the headlands, just so you can see that it's not because we're in the corner of a field where we can sometimes have double applications. But you can see that the tops of these beans are looking a little bit funky. Another thing that you might want to notice is to the south of us is wheat, to the west of us is wheat, to the north of us is canola. Yes, we had a soybean field to the east, but we're surrounded by other crops, and we're clear at the other end of the field here, and we're seeing very uniform, very similar damages. So when we come down near the top, you can see the leaves, the leaf cupping. You can see that there are affected trifoliates. There is also some leaf crinkling happening. These are all symptoms. Usually the leaf cupping is the telltale sign. There's not much that'll cause leaf cupping, but that's usually a telltale sign of dicamba. It caught a whiff. These beans are very sensitive. Now, I'm talking a lot about soybeans, but one thing that you need to consider is a crop like canola is also sensitive to dicamba. So what are we doing to our canola if we're seeing this in the soybeans? Again, this is just something that I think needs to be raised more awareness to. Some farmers will be tired of hearing about it because they've been hearing about it for the last 10 years. But there's other farmers that need to know about it that, like I've said, maybe have not sprayed Extend in the past, have not had experiences with it, are new to the game because they're now having a reason to spray it, and that's the onset of glyphosate-resistant kochia as well as water hemp. So if you've enjoyed these videos, please like and subscribe, follow us on the rest of our socials, check out our great content, and we'll check you in the next video.